After this first visit, this cow was the most requested one for a follow-up in quite some time. Now, typically, we're going to see some improvement after that first trim. Unfortunately, with this one, that is not the case. Welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. So first, with a little recap of that original video titled "This Cow's Hoof is Full of Gunk." Well, for obvious reasons, it's full of gunk. And at the time, suspected this to be a case of toe necrosis. By the end of that, we had removed a lot of the loose horn, all of the debris that was up inside that claw, and at the time, could not see any sort of problem outside of this toe necrosis. However, looks can be deceiving. Here she was on that first trim. She really struggled to walk. Even getting her in the chute was a chore. But here she is today, and wow, she's actually walking much, much better. But I thought you said it didn't improve. It didn't. You'll see that here in a second. Now at this point, I'm expecting good things. She walked in pretty well. Take a look at this claw. The block is still doing its job. That claw is elevated, and it looks like the swelling's down. After I pick it up, take a look at it, yeah, it looks like it's filling in quite nicely. But after spraying it out, that's when I can start to see some problems. Now after spraying it out, I could see there was still some exposed corium. And what I didn't realize at this moment was that there's actually a piece of pedal bone visible in there as well. Yep, that's right. So I go ahead and start this recheck how I would any other recheck, by cleaning up some of these loose edges. And it's right about here that I realize what's happened. So here is that piece of pedal bone that I extracted from the bottom. It worked its way through the corium. Now I'm not going to show this entire trim. I'm going to fast forward to the end of it. I want to try to keep this as family friendly as possible right here. If you want to see that video, I'll put a link in the description below, and you can go watch this trim in its entirety. As we let her out, you see she's getting along pretty well considering what happened. Walking pretty well on that. So like I said, we're going to fast forward again now, 28 days, and we'll see what she looks like. At first glance, it looks pretty decent. Let's get it all cleaned up. So at this point, I can still see at least one patch of open corium, but we've got a lot of trimming here to do to really expose all this. You can see some redness here in that sole, but that's going to start to pare away as I work through this, which tells me that that's likely residual redness from that initial problem that we had. As it's starting to produce new hoof horn, it's becoming clearer and nice clean horn underneath, which that's a good sign. Now, whenever you trim on these, they're going to be a little bit tricky just by nature because of all the changes that have happened inside that claw with that corium and stuff. The hoof horn that grows doesn't grow in nice, flat, smooth layers. You get a lot of rough edges and jagged edges and spots where the corium is interlaced with that hoof horn, where there's some areas of corium that have produced hoof horn and other areas that haven't. So it's really an inconsistent layer. You just kind of work your way through, remove as much of those those rough edges as you can and try to get it cleaned out as best you can so you can really evaluate what's going on and try to remove as many of the possible irritations as you possibly can. You can see as we start to work our way in there, that hoof horn is becoming much clearer, nice and clean and white again, which is a good sign. That means that we've got good healing going on and that corium's able to do what it's supposed to do. Sometimes you wonder if with all of that type of trauma, with that bone working its way through, if you would destroy that corium in some way. But unbelievably as it is, it doesn't happen. It seems that most of the time, if you can get that piece of bone out of there, that foreign material, that corium will close right back up again and start to work just like it's supposed to. Now, obviously, there's going to be some changes with the suspensory mechanism inside the foot. The way that the weight is transferred to that claw is from that pedal bone to that outside wall. Well, obviously, with a piece of that pedal bone missing, that's not going to function the way it's supposed to function, and you're going to see more redness in the claws, more hemorrhaging from that, because that pedal bone is going to have the opportunity to move more than it normally would. Normally, that suspensory mechanism, those lamina, are going to hold that pedal bone in place, so it's not going to have a lot of up and down movement. But obviously here, there's going to be more of that just because those connections are not going to be there. These are some of those jagged edges I was talking about, where you have a layer of hoof horn interweaved with exposed corium, and it makes it really tricky to try to trim away. You just got to try to get away as many of those little edges as possible. Those are going to be the hang up for this potentially healing and trapping some bacteria that might cause digital dermatitis, things like that. So you just want to try to get those cleaned off so that you can get in there, spray away and clean any of those exposed areas of corium. And that way we have the best chance of getting this to heal all the way over. You can see here we've got 3 little spots that are still open, one right at the toe here, one a little bit higher up, and then one near the top. That's what we got to try to get to close. But I think we can all agree that she has made a massive improvement in the last 28 days. So we just got to keep that going. Now, with as many of those loose edges removed as I can, we're going to get a salicylic acid wrap on this, and hopefully the next time we see her, it'll be getting much better yet. And with that, she is done. Keep getting better, girl.